All right, we're live. So I should probably bring up my show notes. All right. Hello and welcome to episode 572 of the Player One podcast for Tuesday, October 24th, 2017. I'm your host, Chris Johnston. With me this week, as always, from California, Mr. Ethan Einhorn. Hello.
Hey there. Great to be back, and had one of those great experiences where I finished a game just 10 minutes before stepping onto the podcast. That is a great feeling.
That is a great feeling, yes. Because then you'll be ready to talk about it in what you've been playing.
Exactly.
It's all good. And this week we're down a Phil and down a Greg. So instead we have Mr. Kevin Larrabee of Back in My Play and the Fitcast. Hello.
Hello, guys. I had it penciled in. It's TLC tonight, WWE pay-per-view. Real nasty sickness going around the WWE locker room. So Kurt Angle has been pulled back in after 11 years of not competing in the WWE. He was doing some stuff with TNA. We won't get into that, but I kind of figured I'd be on because it's such a big event. So I'm here to talk about games with you guys.
We got to play on when there's a big I think the secret is whoever is not on the show is secretly just watching the event.
I know. Right? I've talked a lot with Greg and Phil about their obsession with WWE, but they're really embarrassed about it. Like, they have the championship belts, they have the action figures, they do have the replica, belts and all that stuff. But
yeah.
I decided to show up. They decided to watch the show. I hope they have a great time. I hope it's a great event. But I can always watch it later on the WWE network.
See, I can only come back to it if, like, The Rock comes back or Junkyard Dog or someone like that.
Junkyard Dog is probably the worst wrestler and, like, the worst character of a wrestler ever in the darkest, most racist times of the WWE.
Sure.
So we'll try to forget him.
I had
also on the WWE network.
You know, like those 10-inch like plastic rubber wrestlers that they had a ring also that you could buy. This was during the whole Saturday morning cartoon days of wrestling. I had that ring and I had a bunch of wrestlers, and it was fantastic. I didn't watch any wrestling though. I watched the cartoon. That was it.
Well, I mean, that's fascinating because I was watching the Angry Video Game Nerd had a new episode. I don't know if it was new. I haven't watched this stuff in a long time, but it just popped up on my feed today. I think it's because Google knows what is on my mind. But he had an episode all about wrestling games from the NES and Genesis and Super Nintendo age, and just like how bad a lot of those games were. Like, like, remember WrestleMania? Like, we all had WrestleMania. We had a friend that had WrestleMania. Like, everyone played that game. Everyone knows that, like, like, everyone knows that, like, 4-note track that was played on that game over and over again. But it was just so weird because, like, in the 80s and 90s, like everyone just kind of liked wrestling. It was just such a big part of the conversation especially in the States because of, the Hulk Hogan's of the world and stuff like that. But it's a weird, different thing. And it's kind of like, it's very much like video games. It's very much for nerds these days. It's kind of cool.
Though one thing I do not understand, I went to one live WWE event at Cow Palace. THQ took me and a couple journalists there. So we're talking like 12 years ago. But
wow, okay.
The strange thing about it was that when you're seeing it live, you can see that they're pulling their punches. I mean, you can see that they're not connecting. Sure. And yet the audience is still going ballistic. And it's like, okay, but like, you can see that nothing's happening. It was such a big disconnect.
Yeah, it's really tough because, especially, like, God, I apologize to everyone who does not care about wrestling who is listening to this. But part of this event, like I said, there's a big, I think it's the mumps. Like, a bunch of people in the locker room actually been taken off the road because there's a really bad illness going around in the locker room. So they had to pull in storyline. This is like legit. Like, they kind of had to blow up their biggest event. And that's why Kurt Angle was not scheduled to be back. Like, this happened in the last 48 hours. And the thing is like, a lot of the anticipation for these events is from the story building, and people don't care about matches. Sometimes not because the wrestlers aren't good. Sometimes they could have the best wrestlers technically wrestling in the ring, but if their storylines are not good, if there is no reason for them to be fighting, then that is the biggest detriment. So I think that's what people are really excited about seeing live, is seeing these superhuman folks doing
totally
really heroic type things, like superhero like things, and then also tied in with the storyline. So I think that's what you're missing from seeing that one-off event.
Yeah, I got to go to a WrestleMania event back. I think it was WrestleMania 18 that was in Toronto. I think that was the one with
for the GameCube game.
Yep, for the
that's awesome
GameCube game, and got to see Hulk Hogan versus The Rock.
That was a great WrestleMania
thing. Yeah, in a skybox. I watched it from a skybox. It was fantastic. Really, really cool event.
Back in the day.
Yeah, you had that window, didn't you, CJ?
Yeah, it was
really into it.
Very small, like 4-week window where I knew I was going to go to that junket, and it was fun. But anyway, let's get back to the video game talk.
Sorry, folks.
Yeah, plenty to talk about there.
Yes. Well, I wanted to talk about this at the top of the show. It's been a year since the Nintendo Switch was revealed upon the world. We have the system now. It came out in March, and we're about to enter the first Christmas of the Switch. And I wanted to kind of look back on that first reveal video, because
we're just about. I was going to say we're just about able to play Super Mario Odyssey just like Karen. That's pretty exciting.
Right. The last 2 games from that video, Skyrim and Mario Odyssey, are about to actually be released. So,
yep, and it makes me feel like a hipster in my 20s. It's great.
That's right. Episode 520 of the Player One podcast, and we talked about the reveal video. And I listened back to the show and thought it was a really good discussion. At that time, it wasn't confirmed that the screen was a touch screen, and there were a lot of other sort of little things outstanding that we didn't know about. But, I was excited then. I'm still excited about the Switch now. And
weren't we pretty down on that? I remember, didn't we do like a post-event show?
No. Yeah, we were down on the January event.
Okay.
Yes. You were talking on the reveal video.
Yeah, the reveal, we were pretty stoked.
Okay.
The reveal video, it was like me and Ethan being super stoked about Switch, and Greg was not as down with Switch as we were, and Phil, I think, was in the middle somewhere there. But yeah, I'm still super excited about that. I think it's one of the best reveal videos that I've seen for a system in a long time.
Yeah,
because it clearly demonstrated the capabilities of the system with no words, no explanation of what you were seeing. So it communicated the concept very well, whereas the Wii U video was criticized for not being clear what that thing even was.
Well, and again, the problem with the Wii U is that even after having owned it for 2 years, my wife thought that it was just a peripheral that was connected to a Wii. She didn't know that the Wii U box was not a Wii. So
terrible messaging.
They were so much better with Switch. The thing about the Switch, I had been, as you well know, playing a ton of Vita stuff around the time they announced this. And so I knew that I'd be using the machine a lot as a solo player. I was pretty skeptical about the idea of pulling off those little Joy-Cons and actually playing with friends. But as it turns out, I do that all the time. I went to see Blade Runner with Greg Ford, and we had about 20 minutes before the movie started, and I just pulled out the Switch, and we had a Joy-Con and started playing Street Fighter 2 in our movie seats, just waiting.
So you're reenacting the scenes from the Switch reveal video in the movie theater. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
That's like the next thing they're going to have to put on before the movie is turn your switches off, turn your cell phones off. No Switch during the movie, please. No, and they're just going to say, Ethan Einhorn, please shut off your Nintendo Switch at that theater.
I guess it's probably a good thing as part of the 4.0 software update that we'll talk about in a second here. They made the lowest setting on brightness even lower now. So
love that. Yeah, that's great for like playing before bed too. Like because at some point, like you're gonna want to play like an RPG, something that can help you relax, unwind, and you don't want a super bright light before you go to sleep. So that's
totally.
welcomed.
Totally. Well, I was struck by something, Ethan, that you said in episode 520 that you thought there was a good possibility that the Switch would not be around in 2 years' time.
Yeah, absolutely. I had the position where I was super excited about it. It was the device I wanted more than anything else, and it seemed to deliver on exactly what I wanted. But because of the fact that I also felt that way about the Vita, I thought that this would get an even shorter life cycle. And even with big AAA games like Mario and Zelda, that it would just be too cumbersome for people to carry around. And that despite the fact that the games are a million times better than anything you can get on an iPhone, people are satisfied enough by an iPhone. And, you know, that was my big worry. And so I'm so happy to see that that's not what happened. I think that if they hadn't had a massive differentiator, like you can play it on the go or on the TV, they would fail. Funny enough, if it was just another home console, I think that's where they would have found the path to ruin. But
yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. And really, what a risky move, right? Because basing your machine around being able to play it at home and portably, and building it around a mobile processor like the Tegra, nobody else was going to be doing that, right?
Well, and remember, there was
risky move.
There were a lot of people who felt like it would have been better for them to position it as a really powerful handheld instead of a underpowered console. But I think they did it exactly right. I think they understood the ritual of playing a game on a big screen, and being able to do that makes it a premium experience that's worth $60. So, you know, no one has a problem with the price points on the games. And I use it just as much docked as I do undocked, and I just love that flexibility. A real experience today, I was playing in the bedroom, and my wife came back from a run and she wanted to meditate, and so I had to leave that room. Went to the downstairs, plugged it into the living room TV. My son came in from playing and said, "Hey, I want to watch some Looney Tunes." So I said, "No problem," pulled it off of there, and then just played it, you know, on my lap. And I just love that. It's so great.
I know, yeah, and to do something like off TV play, to take that from a failed console like the Wii U, and to take the remote play concept that were really just bullet points, but nobody actually used those things on previous systems, and make them into such a complete thought with the design of the Switch. Just great stuff. And
yeah, they delivered. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you can really, you know, say about the Switch, is that they delivered on what they promised from the get-go. And, you know, there's still some other things that I wish the Switch had. I think there's some things that I wish it could do, and hopefully they can implement down the road, maybe even with a revision. But for all intents and purposes, they delivered on the promise that they had from that initial video, and maybe even over-delivered from what they've been able to do through updates and stuff.
Well, and also you talk about the off-screen play. Of course, yes, that was great on the Wii U, but what's so different here is that, like Fire Emblem Warriors, the first time I started playing that, I was playing at a Starbucks, sitting down, enjoying my first pumpkin spice latte of the year. You know, it's just, and it's great that you can do that. You can take it out of the house.
It is really, that feature just, it's so awesome to have. And I know a lot of people were skeptical that they would even use that feature of it, but it really, and once you have it, I think it can't be discounted just how useful that is.
If you do any sort of travel, not to like bring it back to wrestling, but this has been a gigantic thing with the roster on WWE. Everyone has a Switch, and everyone's playing NBA, everyone's playing Mario Kart. This is like the thing. They used to carry around PlayStation 4s and like LCDs and package them with their luggage because, you know, surprise, wrestlers are big gamers. Like, they are all bringing Nintendo Switches around, and they're obsessive about Zelda and Mario and all the in Splatoon. Like, it's kind of just crazy to see how popular this has been outside of gaming circles as well. It's definitely almost been Wii-like with its popularity.
So then the John Cena ads are like legit.
Oh yeah, no, and like it's not only like the male wrestlers, a lot of the female wrestlers have them too, and it's like it's just really, it's a really cool thing to see how much this is catching on, because it's, you guys have been talking about this the last couple of weeks and months, but I am excited to see more quality games come to this, because I think if there's anything that I just haven't really been excited about, is I just haven't really loved the library of the games that have come out so far. They just really haven't been anything that has really blown me away, except for Zelda and maybe Mario Kart.
What kinds of stuff do you want to see, Kev?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of it is just Nintendo first party stuff. Like I heard Like we were talking before the show, Ethan was really excited about Doom, and you guys have been talking about Elder Scrolls coming out. And for me, it's like I played those games months and months and months. Like Elder Scrolls 4 years ago, I played Doom last year, and I played it again, a year ago on my PC. Like playing that on a Switch is not enticing to me. I think, to be honest, I think I might pick up NBA, and I haven't bought NBA 2K in years. But the idea of having it on, it runs decently at 30 frames. I don't care about my career stuff. All I want to do is do a season with the Celtics, and if it can do that and it can run well enough, like I think that might be my next game before, Mario, and then whatever else Nintendo can put together for that system. I'm excited for what will come to it down the road, but it's just, I think I can't get excited about these ports of games that I could play on my other consoles, or I've been able to play for years elsewhere, and potentially even at a better, level of performance. It's not as intriguing for me.
Well, so Kevin, I got to say though that, I think a huge part of it is that we are in different phases of our lives. So when Oblivion came out, that was the first game I ever spent more than 100 hours in for Xbox 360. I just love that game. I was really excited about Skyrim when it came out, and ended up putting about 4 hours into it. Not because
let me ask you,
didn't love it.
I did about the same thing. I just could not get into it. It seemed like after putting, like you, maybe 80 or 100 hours into Oblivion, it just felt too much like the same to me.
That wasn't the problem for me. I was more than happy to have more of the same. The problem for me was that was at a point where now I have 2 kids, one of which is a baby.
Of course.
And so it just became impossible to devote the time I needed to get access to that TV screen. Now I can finally go and actually play the game. Same thing with Doom. I thought Doom was terrific. I bought it on PS4, but I played maybe 6 hours of it. And I just couldn't get back into it because it was so hard to get that premium time in front of the TV. So now I can actually play these games all the way through wherever I am. Totally. And that is so important that like I have a pre-order for Assassin's Creed Origins. That's the one non-Switch game I have a pre-order for. And I'm really debating it because much as I love that series and I've never missed one in my life, it's like I've become so comfortable with the idea of playing wherever I am that it feels like a real drag to have to be reliant on being at home.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see what they're able to do with the hardware, because seeing how Doom's a really weird game to even talk about in this conversation, because it was just so well optimized on the current hardware that we have right now, and even on super low spec PCs, it runs relatively well. But I'm curious to see if other developers and publishers are going to be trying to downgrade their AAA title games to also fit it on the Switch, like the WWE game that came out on the Switch is an absolute train wreck. It's a garbage fire on the other consoles too, but like that attempt to try to downscale it to the Switch, it's an absolute mess, especially when you're starting to see, not a problem for everyone, but I'm not really liking this trend. Nintendo needs to find a solution to this, but I don't like the trend where you're going to also have to buy your cart, then put about 16 to 32 gigs of the game's data on one of your micro SD cards. Like,
how do you get around that though?
Bigger games.
How do you get around that if the maximum size of the game cart that they offer is lower than the size of the game?
But that's what I'm saying. Nintendo needs to fix this, because this is not a limitation of technology. It might be a limitation of costs.
Let me introduce that aspect. What if a third-party publisher doesn't want to pay what the cost would be to get a higher size game card?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that's a really good point. But I don't know. It's tough, because obviously there's huge perks when it comes to the game cards, faster load times, all that stuff, just easier portability and all that.
I still feel
popping it in and having it
all digital is the way to go with the Switch, because every time I have had to switch the physical game card on the thing, you have to pop the little tray open and do that. It feels so archaic.
What a hurdle. what an obstacle.
I know, it really is.
I'm very much a physical guy, as you guys know, but
Ethan, you're not very physical.
Yes. The thing that surprises me to hear CJ say that is just because you have two Switches. Charlotte has one.
Yeah.
That's where it makes the most sense in the world to have physical copies because
right.
I know that my son will ultimately have one as well. So we'll have 3 in the house, and he'll have an entire library of stuff to be able to play on his machine because I've been buying physically.
And this is like for me, it's more of a value proposition thing because I don't really keep many games anymore. As soon as I beat them, I trade them in or I sell them on Craigslist. So for me, it is an opportunity to actually have more value. If I buy a game digitally and never touch it again, it has no value. And also,
that's right.
Nintendo has a really poor history of digital rights, and they're doing. Except like with the situation with the Wii, it's actually kind of cool how long they're keeping the Wii eShop up. But again, from transferring stuff, I would rather just have, the investment that I made into a physical thing that I can then sell if I don't like the game. Like I bought Mario and Luigi for the 3DS, like the new Superstar Saga. It's a fantastic game. I was falling asleep while playing it multiple times. It's not for me. So I can sell it. If I bought it digitally, I'd put 2 hours into it and I'd be screwed.
And that can make a huge difference. Actually, this week I subscribed to the top tier of GameStop's subscription program, and so when I traded in Metroid: Samus Returns, which I really enjoyed but will never play again, I got $29 store credit for it.
Wow.
So I spent $11 to play that great game and was able to get Tiny Barbarian, which came out at $29.99 instead, which was fantastic.
I sold Mario Luigi for $32 on Craigslist. The guy talked me down from $35 2 days after I got it, and I bought it for $32 because I have that Best Buy game club thing. So like I literally didn't lose anything out, and I didn't have to go to a store to buy it either. I could just get it delivered.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, Nintendo did release the Switch 4.0 software update earlier this week, and it gives you the ability to transfer your account and saves from Switch to Switch. So that's a little better.
And that
you still need cloud saves,
but that might point. Yeah, cloud saves is important, but that might point to a need down the line for a brand new version of the Switch if you want to upgrade to be able to transfer your stuff over.
That would be fantastic. I'd be all in on that.
I would too.
Sure.
I hope we get a revision sooner rather than later. I think there's a lot of things they can improve on that hardware as soon as humanly possible.
Well, and the beauty of it is they could do it in a way just like Xbox One X, where all the games still are running smoothly on the other platform. It's just 1080p screen instead of a 720p
or
screen.
Keep the power exactly the same. Give me better battery life and actually put in Bluetooth like it's a console that's not from 2003.
Well, the PS4 doesn't have Bluetooth for audio either.
But the PlayStation Vita does.
I know the PlayStation Vita does. So why doesn't the PS4?
You know what? Because Sony's stupid. They're buttheads and they're cutting costs. But at least you could put in a USB Bluetooth thing into your PlayStation 4. You can't do that with your Nintendo Switch.
Yes, you can. That is part of the 4.0.
Wait, but you can't just put a like a USB Bluetooth dongle, like a receiver? No shit. Yes. That's cool.
You can now do that. So, with the 4.0 software update, you can use USB headsets.
Into the dock? You can just dock it into the... Oh, that's right. Awesome.
Plug it into the dock.
Man, all right. They're fixing this stuff. Good.
You can put a Bluetooth dongle in there, and it works just the same. And you can even put a Bluetooth dongle in the dock connector in the bottom, and it'll work that way as well.
That's not crazy. We're not going to put USB-C to USB... dongles with a Bluetooth receiver.
You would have to get a USB-C to Bluetooth dongle in there, but
we're already living that life, that Apple MacBook life of USB-C. I already got all those things anyways, I guess.
That's right. That's right. So they added some more icons. There's some Mario Odyssey icons in there and some more Breath of the Wild stuff.
More granularity on what you can see in terms of how long you've played games.
That's true. Yeah, they go down to specific hours instead of incrementing it in 5-hour chunks. So that's cool. And what else? I think that's about it for the big user-facing features. But all of that stuff is great.
Yep.
Yeah, and Doom comes out on the Switch November 10th. The release date had not been announced yet. We finally got a release date last week, November 10th. So that's 7 days before Skyrim.
I was going to say the same thing. That's crazy. And I can't wait. I'm just super excited about that. I think that, it's just incredible to go from getting an awesome new release every month to now with the holidays, an awesome new release every week.
Yeah, seriously, because we go from Odyssey to Doom to LA Noire to Skyrim to Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and of course all the indie games and digital only games that are coming out in that time. There's already quite a few of those on the eShop as sort of coming soon listings. So that's exciting stuff.
And that's the thing is, it's like I've been spending more time playing indie games than I ever have before. I mean, I played a lot of them with the Vita, but man, just so many good games.
So many great indies.
Yeah, and you're going to get more now that I think I saw this past week that limited run games can now publish games on the Nintendo Switch. So Nintendo finally let up on that stuff. So that's good on them.
That's fantastic.
I have a friend in the industry who told me that the lowest threshold used to be 20,000 units that you would have to purchase in order to get physical copies of the game.
Switch.
Yeah, yeah. And so, as you know, limited run does more like,
5 or something like that.
Yeah. So they probably had to work something out to ensure that was possible. But it's great that they're doing that.
Yeah, these are the steps that you need to kind of make to also just get the hearts and minds of the community that's going to probably, sing your praises the most too. So I'm happy that they're doing it.
Yeah, the only thing I wish is that we had greater clarity when a digital game comes out that will sometime be physical, because
that's the worst, right?
Yeah, because I'd always prefer physical, but like Axiom Verge is incredible, and I bought it day one digital, but I would have waited if I could have.
Right.
Well, at least it's only it was $19.99, so that's not bad.
Yeah, I may double it. Yeah.
All right, we want to talk about this OG Xbox back compat lineup.
It's coming.
We got the rumored image that sort of leaked its way out on the internet.
Yeah, I think I think this is one of the things that we talked about around E3 time, where another surprise from Microsoft, and it just happened to fall in the Summer of Xbox series that we put together. But it's kind of cool that they did that initial announcement. They showed a couple games. They talked about Crimson Skies, but they are putting together a pretty decent list from these initial pictures.
Except for Fusion Frenzy. Let's not...
Well, that's in Bill Gates' buyout. Bill Gates, when he left the company, that was in, said, if you ever did back compat on, the new Xboxes, you got to put Fusion Frenzy on so me and my family can actually enjoy ourselves again. So you got, you mentioned Fusion Frenzy, but you got KOTOR 1, you got Ninja Gaiden Black, you got Dead to Rights, you also have Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
Don't say it. Yeah, Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
But it's like, I'm sure it's like one of those things where they do some of this work, and then if part of their emulation work just happens to have other games work flawlessly. And then Prince of Persia, the original Prince of Persia remake, that was a really great game.
It was.
So I think this is really cool because it's just like the initial trickle, and what we've seen with the 360 backwards compatibility on Xbox One has been incredible. Like just getting these games that light back up on your download list, games that you bought years and years ago that you totally forgot about, or you might still have the disc in your closets and stuff. It's really great that they're doing stuff like this, and I'm sure this list is gonna grow substantially.
So here's what I wonder about it though, is with the Xbox One X, I wonder if the emulation of the OG Xbox and the Xbox 360 is better than it is on the standard Xbox One, because
I would suppose so.
Okay, yeah, I'd hope so, but we haven't heard anything about that. So some games run even better than they did on the original, like Red Dead Redemption looks fantastic on Xbox One. But then some of them, like the Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, runs like ass on Xbox One. It's terrible.
I think for the most part, the large majority of the games run better than they did on the original Xbox 360 hardware.
I'd like that across the board though, but I love that they're doing this, and it's really cool. The only issue that I have is that I subscribe to PlayStation Now and the subscription service on Xbox, and I think they're all great in theory, and that's why I pay for them, but I almost never actually use them. The great
part about this is that if you have the discs, you can just play them. You don't have to download. You don't have to buy anything. And also, if you bought these games, remember they offered original Xbox games on Xbox Live Arcade on the 360's lifespan. So if you bought them on there as well, you can just re-download them again. And some of these were part of that. So I'm just hoping that we get some more deeper cuts. The things that are a little bit, and this is why I want to talk with you guys about, is get some of the games that the rights might be a little bit more difficult. And I think at the top of my list is Time Splitters Future Perfect and Time Splitters 2.
Yeah, that would be great.
For sure. Would like to see
I know what you're gonna say.
What?
You're gonna say Blinks.
Blinks the Time Sweeper. Yeah. Blinks 2, you can leave that on the shelf, but the original Blinks was a fun game. I mean, I don't really have a huge amount of nostalgia for the original Xbox outside of Microsoft's own games, honestly. But yeah, this is good stuff, and I hope we see more. And it would be great to see those enhanced on Xbox One X.
I'm surprised you did not say Burnout 3 Takedown.
Well, yeah, I'll take that.
Sure,
dude. That's probably number one with a bullet because I know you hate Burnout Paradise. So at least you get the second best Burnout game in Burnout 3.
That's right. All right. And we got an announcement of another little Super NES retro console. This one, the Super NT, from the people who brought you the Analog NT. And this one a little bit cheaper than the NES clone machine that they did. This one's only going to be $200.
Yeah, have you guys checked this out at all? Is this something that's piquing your interest of playing some old SNES carts on, hardware that is authentic and that you can actually hook up through HDMI?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It looks great. Yeah, the design of the console and the fact that they're using the 8-bit DOE wireless controllers, that's all fantastic. And the price point is much better than their NES console. So
yeah, the thing is, though, is honestly, I'm very happy with the SNES Classic right now.
Have you hacked George?
What's that?
Have you hacked George to put more games on?
No, nope. But I know that that's possible to extend the life of the system, and that's pretty great too. But even just playing the 21 games that are on there, I've been fully playing through a number of those games and having a great time with it. And so right now, I just wouldn't want to pop another $200 and then have to start recollecting the cartridges. But for those who have those cartridges and want to put them to great use and play it as it was originally intended, that's fantastic.
Like CJ, you still have a bunch of old carts, right?
I do, yeah.
And I know Greg does as well.
My old SNES carts. Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to, if I want to play a Super Nintendo game, I either want to use the hardware that looks like the one I used back in the 90s, or I'll use the Super NES Classic. Like, buying a machine like this is a cool idea, but I don't really see myself being that into it where I would do that. And I certainly understand why there would be that market who would want that. But
So. Yeah, and I mean, I kind of put this in the outline because there are also some tweets about this of like, are we thinking about buying this? And even for myself, like I saw a lot of people went out and pre-ordered it. Like I'm kind of on the same boat as you guys these days. Like, God, I don't even hook up my FrameMeister anymore. Like I don't have a lot of I got rid of a lot of stuff with what I'm doing now with my career. So I have kind of been just really happy using Retro Pies and using the SNES Classic. They're two really good options if you want to play Super Nintendo games.
For sure.
Yeah, though I will say that the emulations are very, very good, but they're still not perfect on SNES.
Do they bug you though? Like I'm super anal on that stuff, and I found them to be like damn good.
Yeah, they're very good. Where I noticed it, the game probably on there that I played the most as a kid was Street Fighter 2 Turbo. And so when you beat the game as Ryu and the music starts to play, it's like, whoa, this doesn't sound at all.
Oh, really?
Like it used to sound. Yeah.
Yeah, the music stuff has always been a little bit of an issue, but like, I always got my soundtracks if I really need to listen to the music in the purest forms. Like that's why I have like an insane collection of the video game music on CD.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just saying if little things like that really are top of mind for you, then the solution of spending $200 for a new SNES effectively with HDMI.
Yeah, And I think that's just a realization that I had, especially like as back my play has kind of gone on hiatus to just or on a shorter run, is like at the end of the day, it's really great to play this stuff on original hardware, but it's really expensive. It's kind of a pain in the butt to set up. And a lot of times you just want to play the games. And I think that's one of the special things about the SNES Classic is that it just gives people a really good option to just plug something in and play some Contra 3.
Yeah. Well, and save states and things like that can be real lifesavers.
Even a retropod. You want to spend a weekend and do something, it takes like 15 minutes to set up. Literally, you just drop some games on it and you could do that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the biggest news story of the week. And this was the announcement from EA that they were shutting down Visceral and taking the game that was in development there, which is a single-player, story-focused Star Wars title headed up by Amy Hennig. And they were taking that game, giving it to another EA studio to assumedly turn into a game that would have a larger scope and that wouldn't just be a very single-player focused story game. And I gotta say, I was pretty heartbroken by this news because as a fan of Uncharted, as a fan of all of Amy Hennig's work, I was really very excited to see what she would do and what that team would do with the Star Wars license. And to have it spelled out in this EA blog post, this statement, it really was like a gut punch because I wanted to play that game, and games have troubled development all the time. I think, what great AAA single player story adventure game doesn't have an amazingly rocky development period, right? I mean,
Jason Schreier has a book all about it.
Yeah, Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, which you can get on Amazon and Audible and all that good stuff. I haven't started reading it yet, but I really, really want to. But yeah, so they canceled this game, and I feel devastated about that. I feel sad about it. I really wanted to play it. I was really looking forward to it. Of course, we'll get the scraps of what they did with another game coming at some point from EA's other studios, sort of built with the pieces of this one. But I'm pretty sad about this.
Here's the thing, though, is a lot of people are blowing this up to be the conversation about the death of single-player games. And I'd like to point to this upcoming Friday as evidence that we don't have that much to worry about.
Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Friday.
Well, no, I think
Mario Odyssey, Assassin's Creed, Wolfenstein 2, those are principally single-player games.
You're correct. You're correct. I really don't think that this blog post should should really say it's the end of single-player games as we know it.
This is an EA specific thing.
Yes,
this is EA. Okay? This is a big AAA company putting their money behind a game experience that players can play for longer than a solo single player experience normally is, like longer than an Uncharted. And the way the Uncharted games and The Last of Us have skirted around that is they have multiplayer modes that people have played for many hours more than those stories ends. And yeah, what I feel is that EA clearly wants continued revenue, which is another discussion. But the NPD quote that we were talking about a few weeks ago from Matt Piscatella, who said that the consumers want games that have an almost endless amount of replayability. I think that's what this is. EA needs a game that is going to be longer than 15, 20 hours. They need something that's endlessly replayable. Not even talking about business models. for a moment, right? Because we have games, you said yourself that Oblivion you spent over 100 hours in. There are people who have spent hundreds of hours in Skyrim and Breath of the Wild and
Fallouts and stuff like that.
Fallout and Dota and Overwatch and all of these games, regardless of whether they're games as service and fueled by microtransactions, or whether they are such an expansive adventure that you feel like you can play this thing for a long, long time in multiple different ways and post GIFs on the internet of you doing wacky stuff. Like I feel like that's what the AAA industry wants now.
And the thing is also, like, I made the decision to leave games as a service behind a year ago. I bought Destiny 1. I did not buy Destiny 2.
I don't think that's even a thing, because so Breath of the Wild, hundreds of hours, right?
Oh, sure.
That isn't a game as a service. And Mario Odyssey with 60 moons per level, 60 plus moons per level, that's not a game as a service game.
It's a long
games that are huge in scope, and you can play for months and months and months, years.
Open world games with lots of quests and lots of adventures you can go on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. But what I was going to say was, I wasn't going to say anything negative about something like Destiny 2. I see a lot of people really like it, and that's great. But I'm just saying that I used to be the type of consumer that needed to buy every single big AAA game that came out. Now I'm finding actually that by accepting that there are certain things I just am not interested in, like games as a service, it makes it easier for me to streamline my purchases and make it so that I have a more focused hobby, and that's great. And there's so many things. Even next year, we're getting the new Spider-Man game and the new God of War, and Yoshi and Kirby and all sorts of great games. In addition to all the
I
indies.
want to stop right there, because I see this mentioned a lot, God of War and Spider-Man and other AAA games that are coming out that are going to be, we don't really know the scope of those games, right? I mean, God of War, how many years ago at E3 was it announced? And what all are they building into that game? Obviously, it's going to be a very expensive game. What are they building into that game to keep people engaged with it over months? Because you have to figure that game is probably not just a single-player action-adventure title.
Right.
We don't know what else it is, right? But from this statement, and I'm sure other industry players are not blind to this. Obviously, we've kind of been talking about this over the last year or two in the podcast, that games are getting larger. The AAA games that do come out tend to last way longer.
Yeah.
You have Activision promoting Overwatch over a year since its release. Like, this is Ubisoft, Rainbow Six Siege. You're going to have The Division. Like, these games, they are not like, marketed up to release and then walk away from it like they used to be. Right. Yeah. And it's not going to make the single player action adventure game disappear, but it's going to be a lot different beast, I feel.
Well, I think that a fair comparison is to say that Amy Hennig is this generation's Roberta Williams. Remember, there was a time where suddenly the 3D point and click adventure games from Sierra and LucasArts just disappeared. After being massively popular, they just suddenly vanished. And that's when we were moving more into kind of 3D games, and Quake was becoming popular and stuff like that. Consumers wanted something that was faster paced, more sophisticated. We did see it come back. And I think that's another thing to consider as well, is that I bet you anything, even if someone like Amy Hennig has a hard time for the next 15, 20 years, there will be a point in her career in which she comes back and does something that will be considered retro, that'll feel a lot like Uncharted, that might be kickstarted, that people will love. And there will be
I doubt she'll be out of work for very long. I'm sure people are very interested in getting her services into their studio or having her run her own studio.
Yeah.
She's too great of a game developer and just a great mind in our industry, or in the video game industry, to not have her doing something.
Yeah, and I think the risk here for a company like EA is that, you know, you hear the comments from players that you want the single player experience, or you want the sequel to Mirror's Edge, and then you do it and it doesn't sell, or you do the Titanfall 2 with a story mode that everybody said they wanted, and here it is, and oh, Titanfall 2 doesn't sell. People want more Mass Effect, and they obviously did a rush job. I can't really say anything about the quality of that game, but they did what people, you know, ask about, and have not been financially rewarded with that decision. And of course, EA, as a company that has to answer to its shareholders, sometimes more so than the consumer, you can see why they would make a decision like this.
Yeah, it's fair to say. And you look at the last Mirror's Edge, which was a AAA game from DICE with no microtransactions. They've done those things too. They've given people what they've asked for, and if they don't sell, then obviously that's not the path that they're going to continue down. That being said, though, and again, this is not to say anything negative about EA, but if EA closed today, it wouldn't affect my hobby as a gamer at all. It would be a net neutral to me.
I disagree with that, because
tens of thousands of people would lose their jobs.
That's thousands of people who would lose their job.
That would be a shame. But what I'm saying is, it's like
titles in video games would go away.
I know. I mean, I think this is a really hard conversation to have, because it's really not one thing that's driving this. There are so many different things that are driving this, and I think part of it is, a company like EA seeing something that is very successful and saying, that's what we want to do now. It's like they're almost like a kid that gets distracted by some other kid that has a new toy or something like that, and they want to go play with that toy, and they think it's a lot more fun to do that. In this case, it's making a lot more money. But I think this is really risky, because the problems with an industry that is driven by service-based games is that there's so many hours for these gamers to be playing stuff. There's people like that are just going to be playing Destiny for the next 6 months. There's going to be people that are going to constantly be playing Overwatch. There might be people that, their last 6 months could have all been Zelda of their game time. And if you're trying to also give them something that is similar to that you want to replace what they're already using for that, then it's going to be not a very winnable situation for you to be in, I believe, because then you're going to do this thing. You're going to have it be service-based. You're going to put all this money. You can see what they're doing with Anthem right now. Like, again, awesome people are working on that game. They're working their asses off, and they're going to make the best possible game they can. But it's hard to not look at that game and be like, that looks like Destiny, guys. That looks like they're trying to do something that's very similar. They're trying to get you to team up with 2 to 5 friends, and they want you to go do these adventures, find loot, and we're going to continue to put out expansions, and they want you to hold on to this game for years and years.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that is a really, like, you have to do something different. You can't all make the same thing, because then people are only going to go to the 1 or 2 games that are the best.
But isn't that what video games, I mean, since Street Fighter 2 came out, we had how many clones of that?
Yeah,
Fighters
and how many
Edge,
of those were terrible, and how many of them didn't sell? But like, again, you had Street Fighter, you had Mortal Kombat. That's it. You had some like stuff with SNK and what they were doing on the Neo Geo stuff. But
when Doom came out, then you had, Hexen, and I don't even remember the name of all.
But I think that's different.
Doom clones.
But that's different, because they're also taking different spins on a first-person's perspective of a game. So it wasn't just strictly, first-person shooters in hell. There are completely different takes on just a new perspective that you're having in video games.
What I would say about this move is that it's not cloning exactly what Activision has done with Overwatch. It is making a game that a player can spend hundreds of hours in, and that is a difference. And you can say that Nintendo's still making single player experiences, and that's absolutely true. But what is clear to me from the way Nintendo has done it is they're making single player experiences that you can spend hundreds of hours in.
That's a super good
you got
point.
Your $60 worth in it, and even still be talking about it today. When
look at what
Nintendo
they're doing
put out that that system update with the video captures, right? And all of a sudden on Twitter this weekend, I'm seeing like amazing videos of things that people did in Breath of the Wild.
And they've been doing season passes without charging for them for a while with what they did with Mario Kart and with Splatoon, having levels just constantly be coming out.
They charged for Mario Kart.
For Mario Kart, but for like, Splatoon, they were just giving you new stages, and like you could make one case like, yo, the game wasn't done. Maybe that wasn't the situation, but they could also say like, oh, well, we want you to just come back every couple months and keep this game in your library. Don't trade it in. And I think that's what, has always been a challenge, is it's not always them wanting people to play for 100 hours. They also just don't want you to trade the game in. They want you to stay in their ecosystem. Yeah. And you got to also look at EA overall, because I think you can look at their management. The management of studios and of game franchises has been absolutely bonkers terrible. Like,
they've been making more money than ever, though. I mean, because my temptation is to say, well, EA and Blizzard should, sit down, get their notebook out, and pay close attention to what Nintendo's doing, because I think games as a service, the way ARMS and Splatoon does it, is the best way. But they're making lots of money over at EA.
Well, I don't think anybody can do what Nintendo does. I think that's the case in
Sega
hardware and in software. I think it would be very difficult to replicate that. But I think you could take some of the lessons that come out of the way Nintendo does that and apply them. But I think probably they're going to be looking at what Ubisoft is doing, or what Activision's doing, or what Bethesda's doing closer than what Nintendo does. Because Nintendo has this weird power, right, to be able to charge $60 for a game a year after its release, right, and not discount stuff, which does not happen with any other third party. And I did see a lot of people on the internet talking about, okay, with this news, should games be more expensive? Is that the problem? And I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that as consumers, a lot of us have stopped paying $60 for games. A lot of us wait for sales, and that means that ultimately these games that cost now tens of millions of dollars to develop aren't able to make their money back, because they're getting only half the revenue that they used to get. And not to say that buying used in anything is a new thing, because it's not, but I think it's much, much more pervasive now than it was.
Well, it's so much easier to just like wait for Wario 64 to post a link of a game being 50% off, 3 weeks after it came out, and be like, oh yeah, no, that's the right price. I'll spend $30.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
that's where the discussion ends.
I think it's also worth looking at like Visceral. Like, Visceral is a studio that has done some amazing work over the years, put out some of the best games of the last generation, and it's a running joke of EA just shutting down studios that have done incredible work. Then once they got under, certain managerial leadership, like, they kind of fell apart, or they weren't providing what the higher ups wanted.
Well, and Visceral is just slightly different in that it was an internal EA team to begin with. It wasn't an outside studio, right? But yeah, the outcome is the same in this case. And I also feel bad for what they did to Dead Space, because Dead Space 1 and 2 are like two of my favorite games from that generation. Just
I would totally go buy those. If you have a good PC, go buy them on PC, because they look they did so much great work on those games that they look phenomenal on PCs today.
Yeah, I never played all that much of the third one to really judge, but I didn't really like what I played, so sad also for people to lose their jobs and have to find something else to do. I mean, you pour heart and soul into these games, right, as a developer, and you don't want to see something canceled and have long stretches of work to be completely unseen. And hopefully we'll, the remnants of it will get swept into something else.
And you guys know this is like, there's just so many horror stories that come out of the games industries from big publishers of people putting in 80-hour, work weeks and just like working to the bone, and then just really not getting a lot of return, and then having their jobs get taken away at the end is just brutal.
Yeah, it's a tough market. But again, the thing to always remember is that it's okay if you're not the type of customer that wants to play the types of games EA wants to make. My wife doesn't love Marvel movies, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that there isn't a viable audience, out there. She finds other stuff. I am not an EA gamer. I'm totally fine with that. There's plenty of other companies that want my money.
Yeah, and you really hope that stays around because, The Evil Within 2 came out this past week. I don't know how it's doing in sales, but it does seem like,
Well, it's hard when there's no advertising and no money put behind the promotion budget.
Well, that's true.
But I think that the top 3 games you're going to hear to discuss more than any other when you talk about Game of the Year are likely to be Mario Odyssey, Zelda Breath of the Wild, and Horizon Zero Dawn. And those are all single player.
Well, I think you'll also be hearing about PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Yeah, that's probably my game. I put more. I mean, I haven't talked to you guys in a long time, but I put more time into that game than any other game this year, I think.
Yeah. That is a force to be reckoned with there. Yeah. The PC just cleaning up. Yeah. I heard somebody on a podcast this week. They were talking about games as a service. I think it was the CADcast. Might have been the CADcast. That games as a service is not necessarily bad from the standpoint of these large AAA teams make the game that they're going to make, and then all of those people are kept on to continue pumping out content.
Totally. There's no layoffs.
That's a really good point. Like,
theoretically,
you don't have to lay off an entire team after you're done, because these games are going to live on and need additional content. And that's one positive to this whole thing. Games like PUBG and Overwatch and Destiny and all this stuff, I know people who they buy one of those games and they play it for a long damn time. Yeah. I would log on before Destiny 2 came out. I'd log on to PSN and at least a half dozen of my friends were playing the original Destiny still.
And that's why I've always said someone else's hobby, and that's not dismissive, but that kind of play is just someone else's hobby.
Sure. All right. Well, that was a good talk on that topic, and we didn't even stray into talking about loot boxes. I'm very proud of all of us. This was good. All right. Let's get into what we've been playing. Kevin, what have you been playing?
You guys have been playing a lot of Destiny 2. It was.
How many loot boxes have you bought in Destiny 2?
We'll talk about that.
Bright Ingrams.
Bright Ingrams.
Well, I don't know what those are, but so I picked up Destiny 2 because it was like we were talking about Warrior 64, but it popped up on Newegg for $35 a couple last weekend or something like that. So I ordered it on a whim because I was kind of just like you guys. My 2 most anticipated games for this year are Wolfenstein and Mario, and those come out next week. But I kind of wanted something. I had a little bit of downtime getting ready to open up my gym, so I thought I would play some games and just relax for a little bit. I thought Destiny 2 might be able to do that. But like Ethan, I was really turned off by Destiny 1. I think I might have played it for an hour, and I really, it didn't grab me. It just felt so lifeless. And also I was really kind of turned off by just a lot of the bad word of mouth that came out with its release. But Destiny 2 seemed to get a really good reaction from people. And I've loved Bungie for years. The Halo franchise is one of my favorite of all time. I mean, the first game that I bought with my PlayStation 2 was Oni. I have a long history with Bungie. So I thought I would give it a shot. And I really, 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 really like this game. I almost am mad at myself for not picking this up earlier. And I will say there's a couple things real quick. One, I am still somewhat turned off by I didn't even realize this when I bought it because I thought there was still an offline single player game, right. But you have to always be online and you're always playing with other people to a certain extent.
Yes.
That's great in some ways where you'll just be getting ready to go into a mission or a side mission, and you could have a public event just pop out of nowhere where this airship will come down and drop a bunch of enemies, and you got to either defend or take out these gigantic bosses. And that experience is awesome. Like that is, I'm so surprised how much I like that. I don't know these people. It's just like a really cool random event that happens. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take some rare loot. I will allow myself to level up because there are some times throughout the campaign when I was just trying to mainline, you have to do some side quests to get to the level that you need to get to go to continue the campaign, which initially I thought, I don't like this because it's making me do stuff I don't want to do.
A lot of that stuff, at least, is very quick to do.
Totally. But no, like I did the side quests. The side quests are sometimes better than the main campaign quests. Like they're great and they're highlighted by the fantastic voice acting and writing in the game. Like it's a blast to hang out with these characters. And I haven't really had this kind of feeling since, not in terms of the characters, but in terms of the gameplay loop since Borderlands, where I played Diablo 3 and I liked it for like, you get something new that makes you feel powerful, and then you're not powerful. And then you get something again, you feel powerful again, like you almost have an edge over these enemies. And I thought that's a really good loop. And I see why it's like addictive for people who go through that. But for me, it's been just so surprising how much I've loved all the races in the games, like the differentiations between all the enemies that you're fighting and the different times of attack. Like Bungie still knows how to do those scenarios really well, where it's kind of like a puzzle with how you're going to take out some of these enemies and go about these combat scenarios. And also, it is pretty fair. If you do get disconnected, you're getting checkpointed pretty regularly. So say at the end of the world, like I had this situation where the first time, like I got super pissed because the UPS guy came, so I had to go downstairs. I paused it, and then I ended up like doing my dishes and stuff. So the game like got disconnected because of lack of activity. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I have to, like, I went all the way back to my ship. I had to go back to the drop point. I had to go walk all the way back to the start of the mission. I'm like, did I really lose 20 minutes of progress? And no, I didn't, because it just jumped me to that last checkpoint. So that was really great. And I just think if you have, like, I was not only turned off by the marketing, but I was also turned off by some of the fans of the game a little bit, because it, like, seemingly this is a really bad thing to get turned off with, but like how people talked about the game sometimes, like, no, it's not that good. You guys are just, you're brainwashed or something like that. But I know, like, I think it is just, it's a great, the planets are fantastic to traverse in. You're running a lot. You're having to walk a lot from thing to thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of good because the environments are great to look at, and the combat is so intense and so exhausting at times. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I finally beat that guy. You kind of want a little bit of a break as you walk from thing to thing. Like I said, you could stumble on something that drops down, but yeah, I think it's a really great game. I'm so surprised at how much I like it, and the soundtrack is unbelievable. Like, it's Marty O'Donnell's writing partner that he's had for years and years also composed this soundtrack. He stayed at Bungie, I guess, and he just knocked it out of the park. It's just, I honestly, I'm almost speechless because I can't believe how much I like this game. And
what level are you at?
I'm at level, I actually wrote it down. I'm at level 15, and I have about 160 light, or 60 power. Is that what it's called? So you mentioned the loot boxes and stuff. I haven't seen a loot box or a place to buy anything in the game.
You have been getting Bright Ingrams, right? That's a box.
Oh, can I open those?
You can open them, yeah.
No. Oh, okay. I didn't
even
even
have stuff inside.
So this is one of the things, is that also dropping into this game, I was a little bit confused on what to do and where to go. It took me a while to figure out, like, how to look at the map and to do the checkpoints. Like, I might need to look at a different planet, because the story in this game is, it's not very good. Like, it's interesting at times, but it's not what I'm really there for. Especially not playing the first one. It is interesting enough to get started, but
certainly more present than the story in the first Destiny.
If you say so.
Basically non-existent. This has a lot more cutscenes and there's a lot more going on.
Tons of cutscenes,
in the first 20 levels, and I believe that's the entire single player campaign is the first 20 levels up, and a lot more going on here than the original Destiny.
Yeah, and it's like the big thing is that the big orb thing in the sky. What's it called? The Arc or something? I forget what it's called, but That thing, it gives you the light, and that thing fell and it got destroyed, and then you need to get your light back. So it's when it starts off, it's like things went really bad, and we got to try to fix things. And
the Observer, again, that's or whatever it was.
Yeah, the Observer. So it gives you enough to like a reason to fight all this stuff and to go through all this hardship to get to where you need to go. But I'm really digging it. And like I said, I like the main missions. I like the side missions. It's just this, I think the side mission stories are actually more interesting than the main story. There's all these little pockets of narrative.
Traveler. There you go.
The Traveler. Thank you. But I think you should really give this game a shot. And I don't think, like I said, I didn't even know about the loot box stuff. Like I thought I heard about it before, but I didn't realize what those things even were, because I'm getting plenty of awesome gear already.
That's right.
I'm totally satisfied. I don't feel like I'm underpowered. I feel like I'm powered just enough to make it like a normal or heroic difficulty in like a Halo game. And that's how I want it.
Yeah. And in Destiny 2, the way that they do it is you can't even get to the loot box store until you finish the campaign.
Oh, okay.
So, and yeah, you're right. It gives you so much stuff. You don't even
why would you want
any attention to that stuff?
Then why do you want the loot box stuff once you finish the game?
I don't know, really. No,
that's the Elder game.
To get even better stuff in the Elder game or the late game stuff.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know anybody. You know, a lot of podcasts talk about Destiny 2. I don't think any of the people that I listen to that are talking about it have bought anything in the game. So they just continue to play.
Right. And like, I think the only thing I heard about was shaders. And like, I don't know what shaders are. I don't care what color my guy is. I don't see my guy. So like, it's a first person shooter, guys. Like I don't know why people even care about that stuff, but I know that was a really big deal when it came out. But that's been really great. And it looks great in HDR and 4K and PS4 Pro. Like it's a really good looking game.
It is. Yeah. I would suggest people even just red box it.
Yeah.
Try the campaign stuff, because it is really good.
Yeah.
And if you played the original Destiny and didn't like it because it didn't have enough of a story, this one does.
It's just like, yeah, the firefights are great. The guns are just really cool. And it is just a good loop. They're constantly giving you stuff. You're constantly upgrading stuff. And I don't like being in menus, but like, I'm just doing enough to continue to move forward and not feel underpowered. And I like, even at points, like I have like 5 like level up points or 5 upgrade points that I haven't even used. So I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I need to use them. And it's just been, it's a hell of a package. I'm really impressed with it, but I'm going to continue to probably like 10 or 12 hours into it. And that's just this week. And that's insane for me at this point in my life. So that's good. And then also I got one of these mini Super Nintendos.
Nice.
Yeah. And
how did you have to wait in any lines for that, or
no? I walked into a GameStop. Well, I went to Chipotle. Next to Chipotle is a GameStop, and I thought I heard they're getting shipments in. I'm going to go take a look. They had a bunch of them, so I literally didn't wait into a line. I literally did nothing. That was the barrier of entry I needed to make. Is that I want to do no work. I don't want to wait for a line. I don't want to overpay for this stuff. I will pay $80 for a small Super Nintendo with 2 controllers. And for me, I like the 8-bit controllers, but the Super Nintendo controllers that they come with in the box are fantastic. Like they just feel so they feel better than the 8-bit ones by far. And I think, Ethan, you were talking about this before, but I think there is something to be said about having some sort of limitation in your selection, because I have a RetroPie. I have 800 Super Nintendo games on it. And sometimes it's nice to just be like, no, here's 20 games. You know, there's great games on here. Just play one of these 20 games and don't feel like, oh man, well, I have 800 other games I could be playing. I really dig that about this. And it's a really good package. They learned some lessons. And I think one of the biggest lessons is I was able to walk into a store and buy one. I think that's huge progress. They need to do better. But at this point, it seems like they're doing somewhat regular shipments of this stuff. And like, you can go on Amazon right now and buy a Nintendo Switch. Like, Nintendo seems to kind of be figuring their stuff out, which is progress.
For sure. Yeah. And it's nice that there's 2 controllers in there. That's the
other one. like that was so dumb to put one controller in this NES Classic because, God, CJ, you're going to be able to put a kid through college with that controller. Like that's so crazy. How
no, I want to keep the set together.
So kids aren't going to college. All right, never mind. Gonna have to get them a scholarship or something. But no, I think again, it's just. I think you were talking about this as well, but it's just like nice to have like a really cool small Super Nintendo box, and they just did a great job putting the hardware together. And also, I beat Star Fox 2, and that's a blast. I had a blast playing Star Fox 2. I thought it was really cool, and I thought the soundtrack was also very good. So,
how long did it take you?
Like 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it took me 2 sessions to 15 minutes or something like that. But I don't care. Like I might just play it once and then never play it again. But you got a full experience. Yeah, I got the full experience, and for me, it's again, I'm paying $80 for 20 games and one, kind of cool game to just have on there. But it's just a really good package, and I hope they continue to make a bunch of these because the last thing I want to see, and that's what bummed me out about the NES Classic stuff, and why I was so adamant about people saying like, just get a RetroPie, because if you're going to get so worked up and so angry at Nintendo for this stuff, and your anger is warranted because you want this thing, because you want to experience these games with your friends, your family and stuff, I understand that. But, I just hope Nintendo can deliver on the quantity of this stuff, so there is no issue like the NES Classic. Everyone that wants one of these should be able to get one. It's just... I mean, God, if only the world could be fair. But it is not.
But yeah, the packaging is just first rate. I love the fact that it does look exactly like the original machine.
Yeah, and look at like even the sliders on the top like work like the old Super Nintendo. Like that is something that the Famicom Mini does not do very well. I don't think. I can't remember the Famicom Mini, but I really like this. You should go pick one up, and it's like you said, the emulation is not perfect, but it's damn near close enough that
it's very close.
Most people won't notice. And
playing on those controllers is the ultimate blast from the past.
I think that's really the biggest thing, is that Nintendo has like the original specs for these controllers, and they can deliver on the quality. And hopefully these things, like, God, I have Super Nintendo controllers that are coming up on 30 years old, guys, and they still work perfectly, and they're built like tanks. So I hope these are the same.
Exactly. They will be.
All right, Ethan, what do you got for us?
So following up on the SNES Classic line, I finished Super Metroid for the first time in my life.
Awesome. That's a great game.
All right.
It is a great game, yeah. I did get stumped a couple times, had to use YouTube once or twice, which I'm not proud of. But
where'd you get stuck?
There was one area where you had to go underneath the platform and bomb to get down to a lower level, and it was critical path. You couldn't skip it. So that was a little difficult. And, generally speaking, when you get a new power, they kind of rely on your memory to know where you have to go next. And so unlike something like Samus Returns, which I finished just prior to starting up Super Metroid, that always kind of gives you a sense of roughly where the next objective is, Super Metroid doesn't do that. So that was a little tough. But the game itself, again, is really something that ages well. It has a great sense of drama. The storytelling is fantastic. And, we'll not spoil... Right. We'll not spoil that.
How about that ending?
Without a word, they can really pull at your heartstrings, honestly.
Are you seriously not doing spoilers on Super Metroid?
Sure, because, and I'll tell you why. Because I think a lot of people have SNES Classic, and many people probably haven't actually played all the way to the end of the game, so I don't want to spoil that.
Sure.
But it's definitely worth playing.
Yeah, that ending's so dope, man. Oh, my God.
Seriously, made me jump out of my seat back when it came out multiple times. I could not believe what they were doing in that game. It was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. And so, now that I finished that, I have continued right on using the SNES Classic. I'm playing through Yoshi's Island right now, and on the side, getting some rounds of Super Punch-Out in as well. And I love popping that thing on, playing for 15 minutes and shutting it off. It's just great. Yeah. So really enjoying that, but also having gotten really into the kind of Metroid type of game experience. I was excited when Axiom Verge came out on Switch, and I picked that up, and that was the game that I finished just before we started recording.
All right.
And I'm going to say something that might be blasphemy, but I think it's a better game than Super Metroid and then Samus Returns.
Well, it has...
That's insane.
It has years
I played them right next to each other.
Oh,
after that, and Metroid Fusion and Zero Mission to come out.
Yep.
Like, it has so many. It's doing a lot different things that than Metroid was doing.
Sure, I'm not saying it's as important or innovative, but I think it's a better game by today's standards. The weapons feel fantastic. The level design guides you in just the right way, so you never feel totally lost.
I don't know that I agree with this. I think Super Metroid is. I think Super Metroid's better than Axiom Verge.
Super Metroid, dude! Come on! Axiom Verge is a fine game. It is an achievement from a single person that put his heart and soul into that game, and I think it is pretty good. But Super effing Metroid, dude.
Not better than Super Metroid.
Okay, all I'm saying is that I'm not playing Super Metroid with rose-tinted glasses because that's not something I played as a kid. I just finished the game beginning to end as a new player and then started Axiom Verge, and I think that Axiom Verge is better. I think that Super Metroid's better than Samus Returns, but I think that Axiom Verge is the best of the three when you put them together. So that's how I feel. I just really had a great time. I couldn't put it down. I thought it was perfectly paced. Now, maybe
I got that Doc Rivers gif on right now, CJ. This is my Doc Rivers. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is maybe part of it also, I will be fair, is that after playing through 2 Metroid games, my skills were up on these types of games, right?
I think that probably has something to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, the navigation was a little easier. I had a better sense of where I would likely have to go because I just experienced something similar. But I just think that Axiom Verge is a fantastic labor of love. And if you have not played it, you absolutely should. And if you're craving something like Metroid, but you can't get Metroid on Switch, it's a perfect solution.
Let me ask you, if they put Samus Returns on the Switch, would that be better than Axiom Verge?
No.
Okay.
I still think Axiom Verge is better.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I like Samus Returns a lot, but no, I think Axiom Verge is the better game.
Let's just make sure we clip this piece of the episode out for future reference if we need to ever debate Ethan about great games versus, okay games later.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
I'm just joking.
So, no, I also did pick up from Nicalis the Tiny Barbarians, which I mentioned a bit earlier in the show.
So what is that game? I've never heard of it.
It's a
physical Switch release.
It's a physical Switch release. It's what some people are calling a 12-bit game. So it's like it's not quite 16-bit, but it looks a little bit better than an 8-bit game. It's a level-based action platformer that is kind of like Ghouls and Ghosts, but the movement is so much more fluid and it's not nearly as punishing. So really has a great sense of humor, has a lot of nice playful homages to earlier games, and is something that just is speedy and fun and hard, but never so punishing that you don't feel like you will be able to continue. If you can get through one stage, you have your progress saved there and you can carry on. So you always feel like you're getting somewhere on every play session, but it's really a fun game and definitely worth $30. So also on Switch, I picked up Fire Emblem Warriors, and as somebody who loves Fire Emblem, I love this game. It is so much fun. It runs so well on the Switch, and it has so many fun references to the original series, from the musical cues to the idea that you can have permadeath, that it feels authentic. And the story is silly nonsense, but it's really cool to see all of my favorite characters from the past Fire Emblem games all in one place.
I wanted to ask you guys about this because I think this is an interesting situation. Like with Hyrule Warriors, I really loved the first 2 hours of that game. And then the rest of the game was that same 2 hours over and over and over and over again. And the great music and the great characters and, feeling like I'm in that universe could only do so much for me. Do you feel the same, or do you feel like you're going to put in 50 hours into XXY, XXY, XXY.
On a machine that I can take with me, I feel like I'll do that. Yeah. Because
as somebody, I bought Hyrule Warriors on both Wii U.
I know.
I love Hyrule Warriors.
So did I. So I mean,
I finished Hyrule Warriors, and I think there is more to it if you're looking for it than XXXY over and over again ad nauseum, and especially in Fire Emblem Warriors, there's more to it as well. I am not as big of a Fire Emblem fan as Ethan is, but I am a Hyrule Warriors fan, and to me, this is more of that. Plus, I
looked at it, you're going into the same boxed in like castle structures that were in Hyrule Warriors. Like they're the exact same maps.
That's kind of correct. Although in this one, they do add a bit more of a strategy element, which I'm sure Ethan will bring up, where you can basically issue orders to the characters you are not playing as around the battlefield, which changes things up kind of to an amazing degree, way more than I thought it would, actually.
Oh yeah, because you can be in a position where you're sending your healer, for instance, over at the same time as your most powerful fighter, so that the healer is healing the fighter, and that's all happening automatically while you go off and do something else.
Then that's way better to hear, because I thought, like, just from initial videos and people posting, screenshots of it, I'm like, you guys, it looks like they just like copy and pasted the code, but then put on the skin for Fire Emblem.
That's certainly not correct. In Hyrule Warriors, the gold Skulltula things that you had to get. So one of the things I have liked doing in this is it has a similar sort of mechanic where at a certain point in the battle, if certain conditions are met, this character named Anna will appear, and you'll get to get an illustration card from her. What you can do is you can send a character you're not currently playing as to go to her, and then switch to them to get the item instead of running all the way across the map to get it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, this is really good to hear. This is awesome because it sounds like it is a different experience for folks that might pick it up. Okay.
And they have really nicely cherry-picked the core elements of Fire Emblem to make it feel authentic. A great example of that is the rock, paper, scissors mechanic that they have there too, where... yeah, exactly. So if you're a swordsman, you want to go and fight people who have axes, but you want to avoid the ones that have spears, right? And so you can, if you have somebody that has an axe on your team, but you're not playing as them, you can send them towards the people that are using spears, and they're going to have a more successful battle. So, but you can always pause at any time and just take the time you need to kind of think about what direction you want to send people. And this is a type of game where I fully expect some of the harder matches, and I'm playing on normal now. Classic, which means regular play difficulty but permadeath. So I guarantee you CJ's not playing permadeath.
No, I am playing the casual mode, of course.
Where
none of the characters remain dead. That's right.
But I really like that also you can pair up with people on the field, and that just like the original Fire Emblem games, builds the affinity, and you see the hearts pop up when they help each other out and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like a very specific kind of customized Fire Emblem riff. It's not just a reskin of Hyrule Warriors. And it runs great on the Switch. I mean, that's the other thing is, like, I had fun with Hyrule Warriors on 3DS, and incidentally played a lot more of that game on 3DS than on the Wii U just because of the portability, but it looked terrible on the 3DS.
It looked good on Hyrule Warriors, like pretty good on the Wii U, and it ran like at 60. I remember. So I would hope it would run at 60 on the Switch. That'd be insane if it didn't.
I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this I also
multiplayer as well.
I did stump up to get the deluxe edition. Yes, which comes with a 3-disc CD collection that has like all the Fire Emblem music, which is fantastic.
That's fantastic. That's awesome that they did that.
Yeah, and you get also these gigantic like player cards of all the characters, which are all kind of glossy embossed. It's a really, really nice package.
I think that's something that needs to change. These limited edition games that you're paying $80 for, you cannot be putting in a CD sampler with 7 songs from a 120 song soundtrack. Like, you suck if you're a publisher and doing that, because that's why I don't, instead of buying your special edition, I go to Amazon Japan and get the full soundtrack, or just go on. There's so many great game soundtracks on iTunes and Amazon MP3 now that you can just buy them on there, where I'd gladly give you the money if you would just be less of a butthead. Let me get these great music, this great music on CDs, please.
Well, and Nintendo usually with these kinds of pack-ins does a great job with this.
No, Nintendo does a terrible job. Nintendo's the worst culprit of this stuff.
No. The Twilight Princess, that was great too. That was a whole.
No, it wasn't the whole soundtrack. The Twilight Princess soundtrack is 2 CDs. All those are samplers. And even like their 20th anniversary disc that they put in. Something I can't even remember what it was. It was like, I think it was Skyward Sword, and they completely blew the mixing of that, so the volume is all messed up on that. So, and like Nintendo has some of the best music in all of video games.
They do.
Like, how can I not get the new Zelda game soundtrack on a CD? Why is the new Mario game soundtrack not on CD?
Looks good.
At least Splatoon 2 is, I guess.
Do you see this, Kevin? I'm holding up the discs for them to see.
Those look like dope physical discs that you could then rip in some sort of lossless format to preserve forever on your computer / Dropbox. I think that's a great thing, and more publishers should do it.
Yeah, it's great. They definitely put the love into it. But yeah, I'm really happy about it. It's a game that I think is going to be fun to come back to for just short sessions, because it's weird with all the action happening on screen, because of the fact that it's just tap tap tap. It's kind of relaxing to play.
You can zone out and just it's a super relaxing game, actually.
Yeah. I had to get the physical stuff because I wanted all the bonus, but honestly, part of me does wish that I had this digital, because to be able to just seamlessly flip between this and Mario Odyssey would be the best.
So my daughter was watching me play, and she wanted to play as well, so I restarted some of the older missions on easy for her. She wanted to play as the character who rides the flying horse. And so I let her do that. And the great thing about that was she basically just farmed a bunch of items for me.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I forgot 2 players.
That you can then assign. And yeah, it's also a 2-player game, but we haven't played it 2-player yet. I've just let her play on my Switch and farm items for me that I could then assign characters' new abilities with those items. It was absolutely fantastic. And she cleared a few of the missions by herself, which was awesome.
That's right.
Yeah. So the last 2 I'll bring up are just a lightning note on one, which is the Gallery 2 Heart of the Emberstone. If you have an HTC Vive, check it out. I'm just saying.
I thought that said Vita. I thought that said Vita. I'm like, oh my god, they're still putting out games on the Vita.
No. This is a big release, $30 on Vive. It's very impressive.
So wait, what is it? Is it it sounds like an art gallery.
I know the title is terrible. But it's like a 3D adventure game. Just the visuals are absolutely gorgeous. You really feel like you're in a place and you're solving puzzles and moving forward in a story. It's great. So
what would be a great VR experience would be, and if bring back Encarta and allow me to see that. No, I'm dead serious. I'm not even joking. Like, I remember loving those Encarta CDs and all like the movies of the moon landing and stuff, like the video of the moon landing, like in the narration of like World War II stuff. I would love to get like that. Might actually get. I still have not bought any VR stuff. I'm not interested in any VR stuff. That might be one of the things where I'd be like, oh my god, like you could take me to all these events in history. That's what I want from VR, not just feeling like I'm playing a first-person shooter and I'm like in it. Like I want experiences like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. That does. So the last one is Stardew Valley, and that I have been playing right alongside my daughter. We've been having a great time. Are you still playing it, CJ?
I went back to Golf Story. I'm trying to finish Golf Story first.
That makes sense. It makes sense not to play both of those at the same time.
They look so similar, and
they do.
Yeah, I can't. It's like juggling spinning plates with all these great games. Like I have to.
It's a bounty.
At a certain point, I just have to choose one and go for that. So I went for Golf Story instead.
Yep. It's crazy that a game as good as Golf Story is in my backlog, because I think I'm going to get SteamWorld Dig 2 finished before I go back to that one. But the nice thing about the nice thing about Stardew Valley is if you want the type of game that you can just like check in, play, you know, for 10 minutes to complete a day, and then close it up and play again the next day, it's perfect for that too. So lots and lots of Switch stuff. Very, very happy. Can't wait for Mario. That's me.
There you go. Fire Emblem Warriors, to go back to that for a second. I do feel, and I don't think it's that Nintendo hasn't marketed this game as much, although I mean, you look at their YouTube channel, they've got a lot of videos up there. They did Nintendo Minute videos on this, but I do feel like it's sort of been lost in the shuffle in terms of mind share. People are really looking forward to Mario, and that is, of course, completely understandable. But you have a game, Fire Emblem Warriors, I feel like people are skipping because of whatever reason. But I when I picked it up mainly because so many people were giving it positive comments on Twitter, and I could not be happier with that purchase. It's, as a fan of Hyrule Warriors and only a so-so casual fan of Fire Emblem, I'm completely loving the game. I think it's great, and people who enjoyed Hyrule Warriors should not sleep on it for sure. And it's out on the 3DS as well. I really couldn't speak to the quality on that,
but probably runs as well as Hyrule Warriors did, which was, I mean, unless you have a new 3DS, you're gonna be chugging.
It is one of the very few games that requires a new 3DS. It doesn't run on the old 3DS.
That was probably from the reaction that the other game got.
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, if they re-released Hyrule Warriors on the Switch, I would totally buy that too. That's how much I enjoy this style of games, and I think it's in part that you know, the Dynasty Warriors games, the characters just don't really interest me in the same way the designs of the characters in the Hyrule Warriors or One Piece or Fire Emblem, you know, appeal to me in a different way.
Well, and you know, the design of Fire Emblem Heroes, let's just say, wasn't for me, but I was excited about the idea of all those Fire Emblem characters coming together. So this is exactly what I wanted from that.
That's right, and they have a bunch of DLC. I don't know if you've seen that coming out as well. And they had a bunch of that for Hyrule Warriors, and I bought all of that, and it was super fun.
I will probably buy all of it too. Yep.
Shout out to Krista and Kit for delivering those awesome Nintendo videos. They continued to do an amazing job.
They do, yes. I watched some of their
debates. Yeah, all their stuff has been fantastic.
That's right. Nintendo Minute is fantastic.
They do a much better. That's the one thing they do way better than Microsoft and Sony. Sony doesn't really have like a cool crew like that does video content on a regular basis.
They do every so often. I mean, their PlayStation Underground videos are good, but you don't see the people. I mean,
wait, is that a thing?
Yes, PlayStation Underground.
Holy crap, that's still a thing?
They have that on their YouTube channel.
Did you get that in the mail? Oh, it's on the YouTube. Okay.
No, it's on YouTube. Yeah, they do video features on games, and it's pretty good. Yeah, Microsoft, they still have Major Nelson doing this.
All right, Major Nelson
for all these years.
I like Microsoft. Major Nelson is not someone that I want delivering the goods because it sounds way too salesy and it sounds so inauthentic. They need someone like Kid and Krista just sound like two people like that want to play a game and they're having a blast. Like
exactly.
That's what I want to see.
Oh, speaking of podcasts, have you guys listened at all to Switchcraft?
I have listened to Switchcraft, yes.
Okay, I just love the setup on that one because it's 3 times a week, a half hour each.
Too much. Oh my god,
that's
too
a lot
much.
Of
I don't know,
man.
And also, it's just the one person, right? I can't.
Yeah,
listen to
I dig it.
I can't.
Really like it.
I tried, and he does a good show. And 3 times a week, that is super impressive. But yeah. Anyway, I've been playing Golf Story as well. And a little over, well, probably about 8 hours in or so, maybe a little further than that. I am having a blast with that game. It continues to just be super fun, and I love the writing in it. It's hilarious, and I ran into one bug where I couldn't get out of my bed in the game. So it's buggy. It's got some quirks in there, and but I was able to get past it after looking up on Game Facts. They had someone else ran into the same situation, and I'm really enjoying it. It was only $15 on the eShop. I'm glad that indies are really having a good time sales wise, business wise on the Switch. Like to read that the Flame in the Flood blew away their sales target on Switch was great. To see the Death Squared guys blow away their sales from other platforms from when they launched just on the Switch, that's fantastic. Like, I really do hope that we see great indies coming to the Switch, because I feel like it really is the best platform for it, and it isn't muddled by having the games with gold or PlayStation Plus. This thing is going to be free in 6 or 8 months time. Like, if you like these games at all, you should be buying them.
They got to be careful, because they are getting into a situation where, like you said, publishers and indie developers are making good money and their games have been successful in that marketplace. I just worry about lots of garbage getting thrown on there. I hope Nintendo continues to have a good curation process, and that the quality still rises to the top, and it doesn't become a hard buying experience and a tough experience for you to find what you want on the shop, because the shop is still pretty basic and bare bones. Once it starts to get more and more occupied, they have to stay on top of that stuff, or it will be a mess.
Oh, I think it's already starting to get messy. You're seeing some games in there that look kind of crap.
I think you're absolutely
like the beer pong game that I saw this morning. You don't want to buy a beer pong game. Yeah, it's starting to. That's literally what I was thinking of when I said that.
Yeah. Well, what's disconcerting is that right now there are no outlets, not IGN, not even indie guys, like Nintendo World Report, that are covering all of these. So some games you just have no idea if they're going to be any good or not, and you just gotta kind of wait and see if something pops on Reddit. Basically,
you should totally wait and see. Don't ever buy anything blind, especially if it's a beer pong game for the Switch. Although, you know what? With that 3D Rumble, no, it's HD Rumble.
HD Rumble.
Maybe. I might pick that up. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the both fortunate and unfortunate thing for us is that the Switch is popular, and with that brings a whole bunch of people that are going to want to dump software on it. And I think you're right. It is up to Nintendo to curate the store and be mindful of that stuff, and we'll see what happens. I think let's come back to it in a year's time and see what that eShop looks like.
What I find myself doing is very often playing a AAA right alongside an indie, and just swapping off between those two, and that feels good. And sometimes the meaty game is the indie. Like Axiom Verge was the big meaty game I was playing, and then the little kind of short session thing was Pokken Tournament, and that was great.
Yeah. Indeed. How about we do some tweets?
Okay.
We don't have Phil's song.
I'm not
unfortunately. Doing it. All right, let's start it out with this one from Hacker alias Mega Man Fan 1500. What are your thoughts on the Super NT console, and have any of you, or do you plan on purchasing it?
I think we talked about that already.
We did talk about it. You're right. I don't plan on purchasing it.
Me neither.
We already talked about our thoughts, so I'm just going to edit this part out of the podcast. And we'll do a different one. All right, let's start off with this one from Hacker alias Reckoner VR, who says, I've bought my son a Switch for Christmas. Are the neon red and blue Joy-Cons a distraction while playing? Should I have gone for gray?
No,
they are not a distraction while playing at all.
They're simply awesome.
And not like glow sticks.
They're not glow sticks, no. And
I would say that the PS4 glowing controller is more distracting than that.
Oh, man, that thing is, that's one of the things that they still, I don't like about the PS4 controllers, that thing glowing, especially in Destiny when you're getting hit and stuff and you're in a dark room and it's like, it's not good.
Well, turn the lights on.
I know, I need the, I have a 4K HDR TV. I want the blackest of blacks.
Okay. No, I have an all neon blue Joy-Cons on my Switch, and it is not at all distracting. The neon red and blue that's my favorite version of the system.
I like the yellow. I like the yellow. I lost on a trip one of my daughter's grays, and we ended up for $50 buying another one. But before we did that, I told her as a consolation she could have my yellow Joy-Cons, and she was super excited about that, and now I'm bummed because she has it and I don't. But
you really do need the keychain. that we talked about before when this thing was announced.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
Or even like on the Twitch shows, they talk about, I think it's the tracker that you can just attach to a bunch of stuff. If you ever lose stuff, you can just track it down with like Bluetooth or something. That might be an option.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, no, everything always fits nicely in my Action Satchel, which is always
that would be a good firmware thing if Nintendo could set it up. And I know this isn't the exact situation, but if you could like have it still connected to your Switch and like hit a button like on the ear pods where you could like make it rumble, so it'd be making a bunch of noise. So if you needed to find it, you could use that HD rumble to
that's smart.
effect besides like hearing some ice cubes in a glass.
Don't they do that? I think they do that.
Nintendo, you thought of it all.
I think they do that. All right, Hacker Alias Rambus Dunk says the Xbox One X should run Steam. Seems highly unlikely, but boy, would that be awesome. Would Microsoft ever do it?
Never.
No. You don't want to put
I don't see that in a million
another
years.
software marketplace that is competing on your platform. Because if they did that, they wouldn't have PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds as a big exclusive title. I just don't think that's going to happen.
They will sell the Xbox before they do that.
They will sell the platform to Amazon before they do it. Absolutely. Yeah. Much more likely that Amazon or somebody else buys the Xbox brand than to see Microsoft put Steam on there.
I think they got one more console in them before they need to think about doing something like that.
We'll see.
But to put a ecosystem on there that they don't control at all?
Oh no, I don't think they'll do this. I'm just saying, like, before they sell the Xbox division to Amazon, I think they will give one more
go.
Yeah, one more go at the hardware.
Okay.
I don't know. What's the hot new game of the holiday season for the Xbox One?
Well, I mean, yeah, they still need to do a better job at publishing some games and putting some deals together and not having things get delayed. But Halo 5 will be out next year. Or Halo 6 will be out next year.
Are you sure it'll be out next year? Is this a Larrabee lock?
I wouldn't lock it in, but wouldn't it be great to get surprise from a Halo game that's coming out at E3 that will be coming out like 2 months later? I would hope so, because it's been 3 years.
I mean it's been a long time. If that was the case, I think they would have shown it off at last E3. I think they would have used it as a sales bait for the Xbox One X if they had anything.
If they did, that would have been a really bad tactic. Like, here, buy this console that's coming out in November for a game that's coming out a year after it comes out. I don't know.
They do that for, I mean, that's what E3 is, right? Announcements of games that won't be out for another 2 years.
Yeah, I know, but I think next year will be super fun and interesting because PlayStation 5 will be announced at like E3 next year, and that will be interesting because it's probably going to be what Xbox One X is. It's going to be another small step.
If I can take it with me on the go, I'm totally in.
There's no way. Yeah, it would be nice. Yeah. I bet they might be able to get that PS4 original hardware down to a handheld quality like the PS3 and Vita. But
I hope that'd be cool. I'd be in for one of those.
I think Sony's done. I think they're done with handheld hardware.
Yeah.
That's sad.
That's fine. Nintendo's killing it. I'm totally fine with what they're doing. So,
yeah. All right. Let's do this one. From Hacker Alias Mathman1024, who says, how well did you deal with embargoes while working at magazines? Were you tempted to leak info early? If so, what game? Embargoes. I think the policy at EGM when I was there was that we didn't sign embargoes. We wouldn't sign NDAs. If people wanted to show us something, fine, but we wouldn't sign the stuff. We did deal with embargoes, though. If a company had a request that they didn't want info out by a certain date, we would do that. With a magazine, you have a different issue where you're not exactly sure when the thing is going to hit stores or hit subscribers, right? And we did have the case a couple of times where the issue hit subscribers, and it wasn't the time that the publisher wanted to reveal whatever it was. So we oftentimes had people, scanning those issues and putting the information on the internet before that company was ready to officially talk about it.
Oh, was that the infamous Kiss Psycho Circus leak?
No. Though
I don't. All bets
really bummed about that.
All bets were off when something actually finally hit retail. I do remember on Game Now, we wanted to do a Harry Potter cover, and EA said, no, you can't do that because we have an arrangement with another magazine publisher, which turned out to be GamePro. But the way our cycle worked is that we were able to, right on the last day, before we had to go to press, the game came out. And so we were able to get it at retail and play it and run the story in time for it to a week later come out and be the cover story. And EA was very, very upset about that, but there was nothing they could do because we didn't get the code from them. We got it from Kmart. So
there you go. Tempted to leak info early. Me, never. No. Because what would the benefit of that be? Yeah. I mean, for us, we were working on these magazines, and it was kind of everything for the reputation of the magazine, right? And of course, no, like there's no reason to leak any info early. I remember we would get screenshots and stuff from Nintendo and oftentimes the other companies, a week or more before E3, and you just wouldn't say anything. And that worked out pretty well. It was like you saw what what they were going to announce, but why bother? Why leak anything? Really, you're
that's your job, man. Your job would be literally, in your career would be at risk if you leaked anything. Even if you told a friend and then it somehow got out, it's not your friend's fault. You lose your job, and you're probably not going to get another one in that field.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about this one from Hacker Alias. Z Miller 1902. Why would Nintendo ever think it could trust the YouTuber community with embargoes? They had to know this would happen, and he's referring to some Mario Odyssey secrets that have been leaked out, which I have been avoiding. I have not seen any of that stuff, but apparently it happened. And then there was a whole big kerfuffle around Mario and Luigi on 3DS. Apparently a digital copy of that got leaked to the internet, and that caused a sort of ripple effect on review copies of Mario Odyssey. So, yeah, I mean, if... Yeah, we were just talking about this, right? Is the reputation of your outlet. Absolutely. If you're going to screw Nintendo, you can pretty much be assured you're going to get taken off the list immediately, right?
Well, I think that's a problem with, especially with YouTube, is a lot of these folks, not that they're not professionals, but they might have not ever been in a position of needing journalistic integrity and needing to understand the consequences of breaking something like this. And it's the case when you're just so widespread with the codes that you put out. So it's a lesson learned for Nintendo, and they can just scale things back a little bit, and maybe they will get a little bit more loose with the stuff if things are good going forward.
Exactly.
Just common sense. Like, I mean, I don't like
common sense, people. Common sense. If you are trusted with an early code, don't betray that trust.
Yeah, if your uncle at Nintendo gives you a code for Mario Odyssey, just play it, let people see it on your profiles. Like CJ and I saw a bunch of people playing Mario Odyssey today. Have a blast, but you know what? Just enjoy it. Don't leak it onto the Pirate Bay.
Exactly. I think that's where we should leave the episode.
Don't leak anything on the Pirate Bay. Just generally.
No.
Okay.
So that's a rule for life, really. Life hack.
Yep.
Alrighty, and that is our show for this week. Thank you very much for listening. If you have a question for us or would like to comment on something you heard, you can direct that to @P1Podcast on the Twitter, or you can go to our internet website at player1podcast.com. There you'll find blog entries about Sega CD stuff from Mr. Greg Stewart and Generation 16 episodes posted when they are done. His new one is about Musha for the Sega Genesis, Musha. And I have not watched it yet, but I've heard it's quite good.
It is good.
Okay. I was hoping at least one of you had watched it. Let's see. What else do I say here? Oh, yeah. Also on our website, you'll find show notes for this particular episode. That's playeronepodcast.com/572. We've got a Discord chat as well. If you're looking for a place to talk about video games on the internet, because the previous place that you used to talk about video games on the internet got taken offline for some reason, you can go to our Twitter account. There's the Discord link in the profile. And join us, talk about games. I'm on there every so often. We got a lot of great listeners talking about games and stuff there.
Yeah, I jumped on earlier today.
Yeah, it's a fun time. And we've also got a message board where you can discuss this episode with us and our other listeners. Who's going to do the film art?
I don't have the script.
I don't have the script either, but you can go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe to the Player One podcast, or Back in My Play and the Fitcast if you want to do that, and leave everybody a great review. Why not? Right?
Yeah,
five stars. 5 stars, please. It helps out, and tell a friend, hey, you've listened to that Serial podcast. You've been hearing a lot of people talking about Serial.
Got something for you.
We've got a show about video games for you. That would be cool too. And we have an iPhone application which you can download, but why would you want to do that? But it's $1.99. Oh, cheap.
Oh, cheap. That's right. Cheap.
Or, there's an Android version of that iPhone application that you can find at the Amazon Android App Store for that same $1.99.
Also cheap.
And whatever else Phil says at this point, I don't really know because I usually zone out while he's talking. You can also support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/P1Podcast. We've been doing some extra episodes, including a review on Star Fox Adventures. That'll be up on the audio feed later this week, I think, but it's out right now on the YouTube channel.
And you changed your score to 8.5, right?
No, I did not.
I think you did
not change my score. My score of a 4.5 totally stands today, and I stand behind that. You can watch that on youtube.com/P1Podcast. What else? You can like us on Facebook. We're pretty much everywhere else and all that good stuff. Ethan?
Yes.
Thanks for joining me this week. You were the only one of our normal foursome to come back tonight. Thank you.
What loyalty is about. You're welcome.
See, you get it.
Yep.
And super extra awesome hyper turbo thanks to Mr. Kevin Larrabee for joining us this week.
You forgot the dash.
Oh, and EX plus alpha.
EX, there you go. Yeah, thanks guys for having me on. It's been really interesting couple of weeks as I get ready to open up my gym, but it's great to still be able to talk about games. And I mentioned Back in My Play, there's still going to be new episodes coming down the road. They're just not going to be as frequent, but as you can probably tell from the last 2 hours, I still love talking about this stuff, and I love hanging out with people that are just awesome to talk to about video games. So thank you for the opportunity, and thanks to the audience for letting me come back on as well.
All right. Yeah, you finished up the summer of Xbox and you did an episode on Super Metroid as well.
Yeah.
So
we had a really great interview as well from the director of Panzer Dragoon Orta. I cannot, thank everyone enough who has supported the show and also been guests on the show and also have just done things to help the show get to where it is. Like after, it's been going on for over 4.5 years, and there's still lots of great episodes. And the great thing about a retro game podcast that they're timeless. You can go and listen to them whatever you want. But yeah, it's just been so great. So thanks to everyone that's listened and everyone that's guested.
And if you love classic games, there's some real meat in those episodes. You really should check it out because it's not fluff. It's like it's video game history you won't get anywhere else, and it's fantastic.
True. Right, and it's just like just to emphasize that, like this allowed me to meet you guys. It's allowed me been able to talk with Ryan Payton, who's been on a bunch of the shows and helped out a lot. It's just been crazy because that show is really what allowed me to come on and talk with you guys on this show and meet the guys out at 8-4 and all that stuff. So it's been a blast, and it just shows you how positive video games can be. It doesn't have to be a negative, argumentative, section of the internet. Like, it can be really great, and you can build friendships off it. So just focus on that whenever you think, oh man, I don't like the communities of video games. Think about all the positives that come from it as well.
There you go. And with that, I guess we'll see everybody next week.
Yep.
Mario time.
All right. Woohoo! Can't wait. It's going to be good.
It's going to be exciting.
Bye, everybody.
Charles Martinet's pissed. He wants his royalty.